Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is Debbie, and today I wanted to talk to you about art challenges. So if you're not familiar with this idea, just Google the term Inktober and you'll get a whole ton of images of past challenges. And Inktober is probably the OG art challenge out there. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but it's probably the most notorious one. And it is an ink drawing challenge that occurs in the month of October, where you have to draw one ink drawing for every day of the month. So that's like a huge art challenge, and one that I haven't tried yet. It's quite demanding, and I probably wouldn't encourage you to start with something that big. But I mean, the thing with art challenges is you can participate. It's not a competition. There's no consequences other than the ones that you give yourself. So you can always choose to do one or two images in the challenge itself, and you do as much as you can. I love art challenges for very many different reasons, but one of the big reasons that I gravitate towards them is that it gets me going when I don't have my own internal motivation. So what I usually do if I'm getting back into drawing after a hiatus of some sort is to do studies, and I think that's great. But sometimes you want to start exercising your creative muscle, your imagination. And that's when I think art challenges are an awesome tool to have in your little tool bag of getting motivated or getting into a habit or getting a workflow going, because it is inspirational, first of all. So what I would encourage you to do is to find an art challenge that inspires you. There are so many out there. If you are on Instagram, or if you wanted to start a new Instagram account, I would highly recommend it, even if it's just to participate in these art challenges. There's a good art community on there, and it's very active, and there's so many people setting up different art challenges all the time. So a really easy one to get into, which is just a one image challenge, are ones that are called Draw This in Your Style. So that is shortened to the acronym DTIYS, I guess. And you can search that little acronym or the full term, and you'll see a lot of different people hosting this. And they often do it when they reach some sort of pivotal marker in their followers. A lot of people will do it I reached 100 followers, or I reached 100,000 followers, and then they'll put out one of these drawings, which is Draw This in Your Style. And it's a way for an artist or a host to engage with their audience, and it's like a way to play together, really. And I love that about this. So I did a challenge during Christmas, which was a good way to just start drawing again. I was doing a lot of my sticker shop stuff, and sometimes you get kind of stuck in one mindset of drawing, and I find it really helpful to do these to shake things up a bit. So I did a few in December, and this month I chose to participate in one. The hashtag is March Garden Escape. So I've completed 3 different illustrations for this challenge so far. It's a total of 5, and I do intend to do them all. I don't always do that, but for this one I was really I approached it very systematically, and I was I really want to have a collection of drawings completed for this little challenge. So I'll tell you how I approached my art challenge, and then I'll let you know some reasons why I think art challenges are very helpful to you as a developing artist, or even as a established artist that just needs to get juices flowing again. So I approached this challenge with a methodology. It was very intentional. I kind of switched careers now, and I'm no longer working in film, and I am no longer going hardcore with flower gardening in the summer, which I had been last year. And I will be doing illustration more as a full-time career. So I've been trying to upgrade my skills recently because I am working as a full-time illustrator now, and I really am just focused on improving, getting faster, getting new skills, leveling up. And I've been taking online courses. I've been doing a few from Domestika, which I'll let you guys know about in a future video. I'll share some of the work I've been doing with that. But I've been approaching drawing in a more kind of scientific way. I want to develop workflows. That's like a really vital part of my strategy here, because being productive means having like systems in place, at least for me. I'm a very routine driven person, and that goes for my art flow as well. So a lot of times I find, after analyzing myself, that when I hit a hiccup in my workflow, it's because I'm not sure how to proceed. And so I wanted to kind of take that mystifying thing out of the equation and just have a routine for a particular thing. So that's what I wanted to do for this particular art challenge. And I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say. I wanted to establish a workflow for this particular challenge, and it isn't the one that I'll be using forever, but it is one that I can come back to, and I know that works, and I know that works for me, and I can fall into when I need to, So for this challenge, I chose to do it in a very kind of cartoony style, and I did my finished pieces in ink and watercolor. I made sure to keep the exact same steps in place so that it would feel familiar, and it would also be I know what I'm doing now, And I think that, once again, all these little kind of habitual things really help me personally. And if you're someone like me that likes this kind of habitual thing, then maybe this is helpful to you as well. So I would start every illustration with my clipboard and some photocopy paper, which is my kind of go-to little sketch method that I've been using lately. I always used Prismacolor Coal Erase pencils. That's been my primary drawing material for a long time. But recently, I'm taking a Domestika class, a sketchbook class, and I rediscovered graphite. So I've been using a really juicy 5B sort of graphite pencil, and I've noticed that it's a very fast tool. And it's funny how something as simple as sketching with a different texture can sometimes be liberating, or help you not get stuck, Sometimes having very fine tools gets you stuck in the nitty-gritty. And I understand that now a little bit more. The fact that having a big sloppy tool can get big sloppy ideas down quickly. And I've been really enjoying that. So what I would do is pull out my clipboard, draw 4 to 6 thumbnail squares, and start brainstorming ideas. I would do it as quickly as possible, get just whatever I could down. And from there, I would pick the one that I think would be the most interesting, and I would develop that one further. My next step was to take a picture of that page where all the thumbnails are, and then I would take that into Procreate, and I would draw it a little deeper, a little more finished. From there, I would print that page, that drawing from Procreate, and I would use my light table, and I would transfer the drawing onto watercolor paper using pen and ink. After that, I would do a little mock-up of the colors that I wanted to use in Procreate really quickly, but this was a new step for me that I had never done before, and I found it really helpful, actually. It takes like the guessing work out of the painting process. Of course, it's not spontaneous in any way, but if your intent is to like just communicate an idea, right, then I'm trying to do things quicker. Part of my personal art motivation is to also be faster, and that's important to me because I feel like the faster you can be and the more effective you can be quickly, the more work you can produce. And ultimately, I want to be able to like cycle through things, because like with everything you produce, you learn something. So the more you can produce, the more you can grow. That's my theory anyways. So these little color mock-ups were very helpful to me. Now, my habit is to usually let the inks dry overnight, and then the following day, I would do the painting. In between there, I would scan my inks just in case something went wrong in the painting process. I had like a backup. And I also was toying with the idea of making the inks like a coloring book bundle on my Etsy store. So maybe that'll be up when this video is done, or in the coming months. I'll let you know. So just having all those steps in place, I mean, that's quite a lot of steps. And you don't have to do anywhere nearly as many steps. You could do the whole thing on your tablet. You could do the whole thing on one piece of paper. But I was just trying to like figure out a workflow for like completed watercolor illustrations. So just having the guesswork taken out of that, just like knowing exactly what I had to do when I sat down for every step of the process, made it so much easier. And I think that workflow is one of the key things that you really need to like get a grip on when it comes to your art practice. I think it's like something that people don't talk about very much, but to me, it's really crucial. Workflow is like a ritual. When I pull out my watercolors, I have a specific towel, a specific way I set up my station, and all of that like little setup stuff. It's always the same, but there's something about the fact that it's always the same that makes it comfortable. And I think that having those kind of like habits, these rituals, it not only like prepares you mentally for the thing that you're going to do, the task that you're going to complete, but it also just makes you feel comfortable that you know what you're doing. And maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't. But for me, it's really, really helpful. So one of the things that I really get out of these art challenges, because I do them on Instagram, is format. So I don't typically draw in a square. That is not a ratio that I would gravitate to normally. I would probably do things more vertically. But since the app is presented in a square, you need to design for a square. And at first I was really opposed to this, and I thought, oh, that's really silly. It's like so appified, and I don't know. I didn't like it. But now I find it really interesting and a different kind of challenge, and also it's very graphic in a way, and I like to sometimes have to design for a square. So it's also expanded my idea of what is a design space. To me, I thought like equal sides, where's the golden ratio in there, But there's something interesting about it. And having that extra challenge of challenging yourself outside of your comfort zone, even just in the parameters of the proportions that you're working in is interesting. So another way that art challenges are very helpful is style. So maybe you're someone that is trying to develop a style and you haven't pinned it down quite yet. Well, if you pick an art challenge, you have 3 or 4 images to work through this style idea that you have. And maybe at the end of it, you're like, yeah, no, that's not quite what I was going for. But you would have explored that style in a series, and you would have at least decided what works in it and what doesn't work in it. I think it's a really good way to take a look at a technique. Also, if you're somebody like me who jumps around and doesn't really have a style and likes to draw in a lot of different ways, it allows you to build a portfolio or build a collection around one particular style. So you can be like, well, I can draw in this style, and here are 3 or 4 images in that style. And maybe at another art challenge, you can pick a different style to draw in and be like, I can also draw in this style, and here are 3 or 4 images in that style. And if you haven't developed a style yet and you're pretty beginnerish, well, here's a chance to explore what that could be. So I think it's a great way to develop a portfolio as well. Mediums, different art tools, different art media is also another great way to use an art challenge. For this challenge that I'm doing right now and for the month of March, I really was particular about the tools that I use and even the color palette that I chose. And I think that limiting yourself and choosing a limited color palette or a limited tool range also helps you maybe master those tools or just get better at them or explore them if you haven't used them before. So that's a good way to see what those tools can do in a more finished way. I mean, you could always play around with tools in your sketchbook, but by giving yourself an illustration to complete, you have to kind of see how far you can take it. So it's a good way to see the full potential of that tool. And once again, if you're a beginner or you want to explore new mediums, you could also decide to use different tools for every picture. Or if you're an experienced person and you usually work in watercolor and you want to try acrylic, you could do a series in acrylic and see what is possible in that medium. Another great reason why art challenges are very useful is that you have a deadline. Timelines are very helpful. And unless you're a very self-disciplined person, having an external deadline can be very motivating, especially if you choose a challenge that is suited to you and that you really want to participate in. Then you kind of feel obligated to complete it in the allotted time. And also because you want to move on to the next prompt, you need to complete the one that you're working on now. And in order to participate in the community that you have decided to join for the challenge, then you need to show your work. So deadlines are great. And if you can set them for yourself, even better. But having an assignment and a due date is a wonderful thing, in my opinion. Now, kind of going hand in hand with that idea of having deadlines is just the idea of finishing. Now, I'm a person who tends to favor sketchy work. I really like rough work. It's just aesthetically more interesting to me. It's more energetic. I don't know. My background is kind of animation, and I think I'm just always drawn to this sort of the energy of the idea. So I'm not as inclined to want to finish work and make polished pieces, make a complete illustration. So I like participating in these challenges because it forces me to complete an illustration. And honestly, I learn a lot from the process. I learn a lot about what I like in an illustration, and it's forced me to learn to finish. And finishing is crucial. Finishing lets you know what you're capable of, lets you know how much time you need, lets you know how to plan. It's really informing you on your process, and also it gives you a win. And we all need wins. And you need to have moments where you can pat yourself on the back. And finishing even just like one illustration in a challenge is a moment to like pat yourself on the back. And I think that everyone needs that sometimes. So I hope that this inspires you to join a challenge, maybe for the month of April. I always like at least doing an image or two for Mermaid. If you don't know about that, it's mermaids for the month of May. I'm a big aquatic creature fan, so I love doing that one. Maybe you want to join for May, but there are tons of them going on all the time. So this is my like advice to you on how to tackle an art challenge and how to like be successful in one. And the first thing I would say is pick a challenge, obviously, but pick one that you are really drawn to and you have ideas for right away. You know, if you scroll through some list of challenges, and if you just search in Instagram #art challenges, you'll find a ton of them listed there. And they're continuously being listed because they're created by other artists, so there's no limit. And one thing that I'm guilty of, and one thing that I would advise you against, is to like scroll forever. If you find an art challenge that speaks to you, just go with it. You can always save other ones that you come across and you can get to them later, but you got to pick something. If you don't pick something, you can't start. So pick something that speaks to you right away and get those ideas down as soon as they come to you. You don't have to draw them, just put them down on paper, just write it out. But if that spark gets ignited, don't lose that spark. The next step I would say is give yourself a plan of attack. Set a timeline and be realistic. So we all have work, we all have obligations and school and things that we have to do and hobbies that we do. So if you're looking for a way to like be more consistent with your art practice or be more serious about illustration, then help yourself succeed by also being realistic about what you can achieve within the allotted amount of time. No one says that you have to do every image in a challenge. Take a look at your schedule, make a plan, and don't overcomplicate things. So if you don't have time to do a full heavy illustration with full background and lots of detail, then don't do that. Then just like, I'm going to do a character and a simple background because that's all I have time for, then do that. And if another challenge comes around where you can up your complexity, then do that then. But the point is to finish. So don't do more than you're actually going to be able to do. Help yourself succeed. Pick your tools. I would recommend limiting yourself. Limitations always come with creative thinking, because within the parameters of limitations, you have to solve problems. So I would really pare down your crayon box and just pick a few tools. Honestly, if you only had 3 colors to work with, I think you would get more out of it than if you had a giant paint box. And if you're looking for inspiration or something to get you out of a rut, maybe pick different paper than you're used to. Say I'm going to do a multimedia thing on toned paper, or I'm going to only use these 3 colors of gouache, or I'm going to do pastels and watercolor. Be specific. The more intention that you can add into this project, the more intention that you can approach these tasks with, the more of a habit of intention you would have when you're doing your art practice. Establish a workflow. Make sure you try to do it all in the same way every time. I gave you an example of my workflow, but honestly, even if it's just I sit in the same place to do this, or it's always Saturday night at 7 p.m. when I'm doing this, or I always use this one pencil to do this, having that habit, honestly, it really helps. And building effective workflows just makes you more productive and more effective. And lastly, don't forget to post. If you don't post, it's not done. And if you don't post, you can't contribute to the community that you decided to participate with. So post and go check out what other people are doing within your challenge. It's a great way to meet other art friends, and it's a great way to build community. It's a crucial step. Anyways, I hope this inspires you to find a challenge, and let me know if you're joining any, and if you're participating in the same one that I am, let me know too. I'll go check out your stuff. I'll leave my Instagram details below. I learned about art challenges from a lovely YouTuber that I love to watch. I'm forever grateful to her. Maybe you did too.